This is the lesson for 12-2, day 2. What you are doing today, yesterday we did FOIL, right? Yesterday we multiplied the binomials together and got like a trinomial as our answer. Today, what you're doing is something called reverse FOIL. You're taking a trinomial and breaking it down into the product of two binomials. Remember, product means to multiply. So this is sort of like a dorky math game. All right. So that's what we're going to do right now. So what I want you to think of is taking a look at this first one. I want you to think of, and don't type it into the chat until I tell you to. What I want you to think of are two numbers. That's what I'm always going to have you think of. Think of two numbers that when you multiply them together, they add up. When you multiply them together, they equal 12. And when you add those same two numbers together, they add up to 7. So think of two numbers that multiply together, give you 12, but add up to 7. Go ahead and type it into the chat now. Good. I see a lot of correct answers. It is 3 and 4. All right. Now, it doesn't matter on today's homework how you put the numbers. I'm going to show you the correct format when we get to those specific questions, how to type it in. But just know that today the order doesn't matter. So here's the next one. Think of two numbers that when you multiply them together, you get 36. But when you add them together, you get 15. When you multiply them together, you get 36. But when you add them together, you get 15. Go ahead and type your answer to the chat right now, please. Yep, I see a lot of correct answers. I see one wrong answer. It is 12 and 3. All right, 12 times 3 is 36, but 12 plus 3 is 15. Here is your next one. When multiplied together, they equal 10, but when you add them together, they equal 11. Go ahead and type your answer into the chat. Yep, it is 10 and 1. All right, 10 times 1 is 10. 10 plus 1 is 11. In these questions today, you can't forget about multiplying by 1. All right, that's a very common one that tricks up people. How about this one? When you multiply them together, they equal 24. But when you add them together, they equal 11. Go ahead and type it into the chat. Yep, it is 3 and 8, or you could say 8 and 3. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 plus 3 is 11. How about this one? Still using that 24. When you multiply the two numbers together, they give you 24. But when you add them, you get 10. Go ahead and type it into the chat, please. Yep, it is 6 and 4. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 plus 4 is 10. Now, getting a little bit more difficult. All right, negatives are always more difficult. Remember that a negative times a negative is a positive, but a negative times a positive is a negative. All right, so when you multiply the two numbers together, you get negative 30. But when you add the two numbers together, you get negative 7. Negative ones are definitely a little bit more challenging. Go ahead and type your answer into the chat, please. What times what is negative 30? That adds up to negative 7. Yep, I see a couple correct answers. It is negative 10 and 3. All right, negative 10 and 3. Go ahead and try this one. When you multiply them together, they give you negative 48. But when you add them together, they give you positive 8. Go ahead and type your answer into the chat, please. What times what is negative 48? That adds up to 8. Good. I see a couple of correct answers, 12 and negative 4. 12 times negative 4 is negative 48, but 12 plus negative 4 is positive 8. Go ahead and try this one. When you multiply them together, you get 60, but when you add them together, you get negative 19. Go ahead and type in your answer, please. Yep, it is negative 15 and negative 4. All right, negative 15 and negative 4. This one's a lot more challenging because you have to remember that a negative times a negative gives you a positive. But when you add these two negatives together, it will give you a negative answer. Here's the next one. When multiplied together gives you negative 18, but when you add them together, they give you negative 7. Go ahead and type that in the chat, please. Yep, I see a bunch of correct answers. It is negative 9 and positive 2. Negative 9 times 2 is negative 18, but negative 9 plus 2 is negative 7. Here's the next one. When multiplied together gives you negative 81, but when you add them together, they give you 0. Go ahead and type that in the chat, please. Yep, I see a lot of people with the correct answer here. It is 9 and negative 9. 9 times negative 9 gives you negative 81, but 9 plus negative 9 gives you 0. This is the type of thought process that you have to go through today for literally every single question. So the better you are at your times tables, for lack of a better word, and the better you are at mental math, being able to add numbers together, both positives and negatives, the easier you're going to find this. If you're bad at your times tables, if you're bad at doing mental math in your head, you're going to have a hard time with this today. So your actual questions actually look like this today. All right. You're doing reverse FOIL. You're going to be given a trinomial like this, and you have to think about what times what equals your C value. So what times what equals that number at the end that adds up to your B value, which is right here. So in this first one, in question number 1, it would be what times what equals 6. Now you always have to look at the plus or minus sign in front of the number, because this would be a positive 6. If it had a minus 6 there, we'd be doing what times what equals negative 6. And we will have some like that. These all happen to be positive right here, but on the next slide, we'll have some minuses. So, and then this is a positive 5. So what times what equals positive 6? That adds up to 5. What times what equals positive 6? That adds up to 5. Go ahead and type in what you think the answer is, those two numbers in the chat, please. What times what is 6? That adds up to 5. Yep, it is. Lots of people are saying.
Would Caitlin Hune please call 3107? Caitlin Hune, 3107.
So it is 2 and 3. All right. Now, how we're going to type this in today is if it's positive 2, we're going to put x plus 2. If it's positive 3, we're going to put x plus 3, just like this. All right. Take a look at number 2. What times what is 63? That adds up to 16. Go ahead and type this one in, please, to the chat. What times what is 63? that adds up to 16? I see a couple right answers. I see a couple wrong answers. 9 times 7 is 63, and 9 plus 7 is 16. So it would be x plus 9 and x plus 7. Now, I should have mentioned in the last question, it does not matter the order that you put these in, as long as you have the sign in front of it correct. All right. X plus 9 and then x plus 7 is the same exact thing as x plus 7, then x plus 9. Those are the same exact answers. Both of them are correct. Take a look at number 3. What times what is 24 that adds up to 11? What times what is 24 that adds up to 11? Go ahead and type it into the chat, please. What times what is 24 that adds up to 11? Yep, it is 8 and 3, or 3 and 8. So it would be x plus 8 and x plus 3. Go ahead and take a look at the next one. What times what is 16 that adds up to 10? What times what is 16 that adds up to 10? Go ahead and type your answer in the chat, please. What times what is 16 that adds up to 10? Yep, it is 8 and 2. So 8 times 2 is 16. 8 plus 2 is 10. Now, these get a little bit more difficult now that we're going to deal with negatives again. So what times what is 48 that adds up to negative 14? Go ahead and try number 5, please. What times what is 48 that adds up to negative 14? Go ahead and type your answer into the chat, please. Good. I see a bunch of correct answers. It is -6 and -8, because -6 times -8 is positive 48. Because remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. But then when we add together those two numbers, -6 plus -8, you do get -14. Go ahead and try number 6. What times what is 30 that adds up to -13? What times what is 30 that adds up to -13? Go ahead and type your answer in the chat, please. I see a couple of correct answers. I see a couple of wrong answers. It is x minus 10 and x minus 3, because -10 times -3 is positive 30, but -10 plus -3 is -13. Be careful there. Here's the next one. What times what is 15 that adds up to -8? What times what is 15 that adds up to -8? Go ahead and try number 7, please. Go ahead and type your answer in the chat. What times what is 15 that adds up to -8? Yep, I see a lot of correct answers. It is x minus 3 and x minus 5. -3 times -5 is positive 15, but -3 plus -5 is -8. Go ahead and try number 8, please. What times what is 45 that adds up to -14? Go ahead and type your answer in the chat. What times what is 45 that adds up to -14? Yep, it is -9 and -5. -9 times -5 is positive 45. -5 plus -9 is -14. Now, these do get a little bit harder when you have negatives, all right? These do get a little bit harder when you have negatives. So think about what times what is negative 45 that adds up to negative 4? What times what is negative 45 that adds up to negative 4? Sorry, I got to close that for a second. I got to open up the calculator. Go ahead and type your answer into the chat. What times what is negative 45 that adds up to negative 4? Good. I see a lot of correct answers on that one. X minus 9 and X plus 5. Now, as soon as my calculator opens, I'll be able to show you a little trick. All right. I don't know why my calculator is not opening. There we go. I know I stopped sharing my screen. I'll be there in 1 second. Oh, that didn't do what I wanted it to. Hold on. All right. So let me show you a little trick. If you can't figure out, all right, if you can't figure out what times what is negative 45 that adds up to negative 4, what you can do is you can put your C value on the top part of your fraction. So you would type in y into y equals, you would type in negative 45 divided by x. All right, negative 45 divided by x. Don't graph it. What we want to do is hit second and table. All right, when you go to second and table, it will give you, all right, we don't want any of the decimal answers, but these are all what times what equals negative 45. Sometimes you're going to come across ones where they're a little bit more tricky. All right, especially if you get bigger numbers that are in like the hundreds or something like that. It might be very difficult to come up with what times what equals a number. So notice our pairs here of integers. We have 1 and negative 45. Well, 1 times negative 45 is negative 45. 3 times negative 15 is negative 45. 5 times negative 9. 9 times negative 5. And if we keep on going, it'll be all those same ones, and we'd end up with 15 and negative 3 would be our next one. So this is just a little trick that you can do if you can't figure out what times what equals a number. All right, and then you can just look at those integers like 9 and negative 5, or 5 and negative 9, or 3 and negative 15, or 1 and negative 45. Look at those and see what they add up to. All right, so that's a little hack for you. So take a look at the next one. What times what is negative 40 that adds up to negative 3? Go ahead and try this one, please. What times what is negative 40 that adds up to negative 3? So again, just to show you what would happen if I hit second and table right now, notice my pairs. I have 1 and negative 40, 2 and negative 20, 4 and negative 10, 5 and negative 8. A lot of times, especially like a number like 40, there's a lot of different possible things that multiply together to give you negative 40. Well, this just sort of narrows down your list and makes it a nice, neat list for you. So we're looking for the pair that adds up to negative 3. Well, this would add up to negative 39. This would add up to negative 18. This would add up to negative 6. This would add up to negative 3. Ding, ding, ding. It is x plus 5 and x minus 8. Now, another way that you could do this, all right, if you're good at your times tables in your head, what times what is negative 40? You could always make a list, all right? You could always make your own list. You could just start by going 1 and negative 40. But you could also have negative 40 or negative 1 and positive 40. You could have 2 and negative 20. You could have negative 2 and positive 20. 3 doesn't go into 40 evenly, but 4 does. So we would have 4 and negative 10, or you could have negative 4 and positive 10. So you could always start going through and making a list for yourself if you wanted to. But again, the calculator will do that for you. If you do the number, if you do your C value divided by X, all right, that will do this list for you. You just have to ignore the decimals there. Take a look at number 11. What times what is negative 15? That adds up to 2. What times what is negative 15? That adds up to 2. Go ahead and type that in the chat if you didn't do so already. It is x plus 5 and x minus 3. Take a look at number 12. What times what is negative 24? That adds up to 5. What times what is negative 24? That adds up to 5. Go ahead and type that into the chat. Yep, that would be x plus 8 and x minus 3. Take a look at the next one. We just have 4 left and then we're done. What times what is negative 24? That adds up to negative 10. What times what is negative 24? That adds up to negative 10. Again, 24 is one of those ones that there's a bunch of numbers that go into it evenly. So 24s are a little bit more difficult. Remember, you could always type negative 24 divided by x into your y equals, and then hit table so that you can see the integer pairs of what times what it is. So this one would be x minus 12 and x plus 2. Take a look at 14. What times what is negative 30? That adds up to 7. What times what is negative 30? That adds up to 7. Yep, so this one would be x plus 10 and x minus 3. Go ahead and try this next one. Again, what times what is negative 80? That adds up to negative 2. What times what is negative 80? That adds up to negative 2. Yep, this one would be x minus 10 and x plus 8. Negative 10 times 8 is negative 80. Negative 10 plus 8 is negative 2. Here is the last one. What times what is negative 28? That adds up to 3. So we would have x plus 7 and x minus 4. 7 times negative 4 is negative 28. 7 plus negative 4 is 3. One last thing that I want to show you. You can check your answers, all right, if you're ever unsure. I know ClassKick automatically says if you're right or wrong, but you can always check your answers, especially when it comes to like the quiz. So in this one, what times what is negative 24? That adds up to negative 5. It would be x plus 3 and x minus 8. If you wanted to check your answer, all that you would have to do is FOIL or double distributive property. X times x is x squared. X times negative 8 is negative 8x. 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. Add together your like terms, your outers and your inners, if you want to do it, say it that way. Negative 8x plus 3x is negative 5x. And notice that we got our original question from the beginning. If your answer doesn't match your original question, then you did it wrong. All right. If it does match your original question, then you did it correct. All right. So that's what you're doing today. What times what equals your C value that adds up to your B value in the middle.